R-Axis and Rome Peace Talks. To shed more light on the current political situation in the country, I am now joined live in the studio by Edmond Yakani, the Executive Director of the Community Empowerment for Progress Organization, or CEPO. Yakani, good morning and welcome to the Dawn Show on iRadio.
Yeah, good morning, Al-Hadi, and good morning to listeners of iRadio, and good morning to every South Sudanese wherever they are listening to our show.
Yes. To begin with, what is your assessment on the current peace implementation?
The current peace implementation process is a bit slow, I have to be honest and sincere. Why I say slow? Because the indicators of success against the provisions of the revitalized peace agreement is really below expectation. So what do I mean? For example, if you look at chapter 1, yes, we are still missing reconstitution of key political institutions like the National Constitutional Review Commission, National Election Commission, Political Parties Council, and other independent commissions, because this is in line of that, apart from the executive and the legislative and the judiciary organs. And then if you go to chapter 2, the graduation of unified forces is not yet been completed. Yes, we have graduated unified forces phase 1, and the phase 1 are not being redeployed, and why we don't know why delay of redeployment is happening. And if you go to chapter 3, the financial reforms is still there's a dragging of feet around it, though we see some little progress there. If you go to chapter 4, the humanitarian situation is still getting worse. Chapter 5, there's nothing apart from the consultation. Chapter 6 was still getting directives for the formation of the Constitutional Drafting Committee, which by now it would have been commenced its work as per the speech of the president when he was closing the year in 2022. So I'll say the implementation is below expectation, and Rome Peace process is a political tourism. We have not gained anything apart from our leaders flying from Juba and coming from the capitals, go to Rome, enjoy the hotels and sleep well and come back without any results. It's just a political tourism.
Yes. As you have just mentioned, the visit of Pope Francis and the two other religious leaders, how important is the papal visit to South Sudanese?
It's of great importance, and I will divide the importance into 3 categories. Spiritually, it's a blessing to the nation. It have opened our hearts to think about forgiveness and reconciliation, and you have seen in Garang Mausoleum where we have come out all as a Christians, as a Muslims, regardless of our ethnic and political divides, we all celebrated, and you see how massive it just looks like the Independence Day. I've never seen any event that we have seen that massive population. That is spiritual, the impact of Pope's visit. Socially, we have seen a new roads in Juba. Tarmac roads in the name of Pope. At least for those of us who live around Tomping and Munuki, we are enjoying those tarmac roads. And with that, Pope would have visited all roads in Tomping and Munuki would have seen new tarmac roads, because we say there's no money for implementation of peace agreement, but we're able to get the money in 1 week time to fix Pope Francis Road in Tomping. And we have seen beauty of Juba town, and we have been wasting a lot of resources that we need to beautify Juba, except when Pope is coming, then we have seen Juba is not being beautified. You see the streets having signs. So that's the impact socially of Pope's visit, and we hope that he can visit every 6 months so that we can see that social development in Juba town. Politically, it's a pressure to our leaders. Why it's a pressure to our leaders? Because they are unable to demonstrate any harvest fruits from the case of Pope on their feet 5 years ago. And you can see very clear from the Archbishop of Canterbury when he told our leaders in the State House or in the office of the president, or what do you call the palace, that I'm so disappointed. Since 2019, after Pope kissed your feet, I've never seen any improvement. And why is the political pressure? Because in the eve of their arrival, the communal violence that I've been talking about, people have been denying them, but now you have seen the incident of Kajukeji. It have raised the eyebrow of these particular 3 religious leaders, and they have taken it up. And if you see the Bishop of Canterbury start tweeting even before arriving to Juba that he's so disappointed that we have lost lives of 27 people in Kajukeji in the eve of their arrival. So that is the pressure that our political leaders have. So our political leaders are in a very sympathetic, in a very position where they're really sympathizing to hear good messages from the religious leaders. Of course, the Archbishop of Canterbury was not really so soft. He was very hard. And that is the political pressure that our leaders have to carry along, and have to bear with them. And still, when they leave behind a political pressure for our leaders.
Yes, but if you look at the things, there is no clear condemnation or message from the national government to what happened in Kajukeji.
Yes, it was a surprise to see after Pope's visit, after Pope left, and then I see condemnation coming out from His Excellency the President, and even the response. If you see, I'm somebody who's closely engaged with this crisis across the country. closely in the sense that I've been following every single incident. It seems as a bit of a selective approach towards mitigating some of this communal violence. If this incident happened in some communities, we would have seen a quick and a very urgent response to it. But this one, the response is not urgent, it's not so much, and it's not only this incident. We have seen other incidents in other parts, like Gumruk, when it was happening in Gumruk, when the lone youth and then the Dinka from Duk flash out the SSPDF out of Gumruk town. The response was very, very slow. So there's a demonstration of a bit of a selective and discriminative way of responding to this communal violence, and that has annoyed the religious leaders. And it became a big issue because even the Archbishop of the internal province of Central Equatoria, that is Paulu Yugusuk, who is supposed to attend the visit of Archbishop of Canterbury and these particular other religious leaders, Pope Francis and the moderator of the Church of Scotland, left Juba and went to Kajukeji, and that have drawn an eyebrow. And I think that's really a very big blow, a political shame to our political leadership if they don't resolve. Of course, we have seen the response from Central Equatoria, government have gone there, but the issue of Kajukeji is not talk. The issue of Kajukeji, we need to find a solution, and the solution is that please implement the presidential order for the return of the cattle so that you can create, or try to sit down and find amicable solution on how pastoralists and farmers can coexist without leaving them to clash.
Yes, Edmond, as you mentioned, Pope kissed the feet of the leaders back in 2019 in Rome. Do you think his visit will help push the country towards lasting peace?
This question specifically goes to our political elite and a political
and you have been
power.
There, by the way. You have been in Rome, you have been in Khartoum, you have been in Addis Ababa. Yes.
I will tell you, the case of Pope and the visit of Pope will not yield any results. One, if our political leaders have not reduced the deficit in trust and confidence among themselves. The personal differences of our political leaders have subjected this country to suffer, either as individuals or as a clique of political groups. Because politically, once you have a deficit in trust and confidence towards your counterpart, whom you can call as your opponent, you cannot pave any way for something successful. You cannot compromise. You always look at calculations, political calculations that sabotage what you call the progress of your enemy or the progress of your opponent, and that makes you not to deliver anything. So even the Pope's visit to Juba will be as equal as not of importance like the case if our political leaders didn't stop the deficit in trust and confidence. If our political leaders didn't walk the talk of reconciliation and forgiveness, we cannot go anywhere. So one of the biggest issues I'd like to be honest with you is that we are not suffering because South Sudanese hate each other. No, we are suffering because our political leaders have personal grievances that they have used it to subject the whole country to suffer. And they even make the country to break into pieces because of their political differences. Otherwise, if we were to follow an honorable and peaceful way of transitioning of power, we could have not reached to the situation where we are now. We could have been in a very good position. But as I said, how much we want to assess the impact of the case of Pope in the feet of our leaders is below expectation. This visit is below expectation. And my appeal that I would like to really personally make it to His Excellency with due respect and honor to His Excellency President, the last sign when Pope was leaving Juba is touching the head of our president. And in Christianity, when somebody like Pope touches your head, it's a big, big, big challenge. It's a spiritual challenge. So whether that touch of the head and the kiss of the feet will bring peace and stability, it depends on the level of trust and confidence that our political leaders will have among themselves.
Yes, we'll get some comments later from our listeners also. لكل مستمع في كل مكان، ضيف تعرف في الاستديو هو إدمون ياكاني، مدير التنفيذي لمنظمة تمكين المجتمع من أجل التقدم المعروف اختصارا CEPO. Let us go for a short break and then we'll come back again.
It's time to swap. Swap to the best. Swap to the affordable. Swap to the fastest Zain 4G LTE.
Yes, for the existing subscribers who are not on the 4G compatible SIM card, it's time to swap. And for the new subscribers, don't hesitate to buy the 4G SIM card and ensure your handset supports LTE. Browsing is super fast like never before with Zain 4G internet. Swap your old SIM card to the 4G SIM card today from the nearest Zain shop or authorized dealer. Subscribe to 4G data packages by dialing *102#. Choose your daily, weekly or monthly bundles. Zain Superfast Internet experience is here to stay.
Zain is here for you. A wonderful world.
Zain, a wonderful world.
نتاكم في جنوب السودان.
Yes indeed نتاكم في جنوب السودان لكل مستمع في كل مكان لناس اللي بيسمعونا في زمن تاعت حسن. أذكركم زمننا ساعة 7:23 دقيقة داخل استديوهات تاعت آريد. زي ما أنا قلت جبال ضيف طاير في الاستديو هو إدمون ياكاني المدير التنفيذي لمنظمة تمكين المجتمع من أجل التقدم المعروف اختصارا بسيبو. نعم نمشي لبعض من الأسئلة بنسأل فيهم. متأكد في ناس كتار بدوقوا تليفون هم داري يشاركونا لكن حنديكم زمن بتاع مشاركة بعد شوية من الآن وده ما حيكون حسي لكن بس خليكم معنا شوية وحتعرفوا كتير وكتير. إدمون ياكاني, my question to you, what should be the priority of the government this year?
Thank you very much, Alhadi Awari. The priority of the government this year will be as follows. Number one, redeploy the graduated unified forces and immediately enroll out phase 2 of the unified graduated forces, and this should be at least completed by the late March if there's anything with the unified graduation forces. That's the most important thing. And if they are deploying the graduated unified forces, they deploy with the principle of increasing the state capacity in protection of civilians, like what happened in Kajukeji. They must be coordinated with UNIMIS and see. That's the first priority. Second priority, immediately before the end of this month, His Excellency President and his counterparts in the presidency reconstitute the political institutions, namely the Constitutional Review Commission, the Constitutional Drafting Committee, the National Election Commission, the Political Parties Council, so that we start engaging on political milestone if we want to meet a credible election by December 2024. That's the second priority. The third priority that the government must really give it is open the civic and the political space. Let South Sudanese dialogue among themselves. Remember, President declared year 2023 as a year for forgiveness and reconciliation. We cannot reconcile, we cannot forgive each other if we are not allowed the civic and political space to assemble, to associate, freedom of expression. If we don't talk among ourselves, forgiveness will not be there. So it means we need to open the political and the civic space as a third priority. The fourth priority, which is the last, is that the government need to utilize the resources we have for the best interest of the citizen. What does it mean? It means the government need to inject money to reduce the economical pressure on the citizens. It means put money into the pocket of the civil servants, being in uniform or not in uniform. For me, those are the four priorities. The rest will come automatic. If the citizens are happy, people can perform.
You mentioned something about necessary unified forces. In your view, what is really delaying the deployment of the necessary unified forces?
One, the mistrust that the political parties have towards each other have contributed into that. Number two, people who have no interest of the peace agreement are taking responsibility of making decisions for the deployment. So I would say the implementation of the revitalized agreement is hijacked by people who have no interest in the agreement actually. For me, those are the things that I can put forward. Because if you say we don't have money to redeploy the unified forces, where did we get the money to fix the tarmac road in Tomping in the name of Pope Francis? So will the tarmac road in the name of Pope Francis protect the lives of our citizens? Than if we deploy the unified force, we could have stopped the incident in Kajukeji, which claimed 27 lives. We could have stopped the incident in Gumruk. We could have stopped a unknown gunman. What will the tarmac road be?
Will that tarmac road last for 2 years?
And that's the question. And even how many sagas are behind the tarmac road? How many people have eaten money in the name of that tarmac road?
Okay, what is your call to the government to speed up the graduation of the second batch? I know the first one is still facing a lot of challenges, but now let us jump to the second one.
The second one, I know...
So that you can complete the 33,000.
Exactly. The second one, I know the honorable advisor of the president on security affairs have directed the last month to report training site. They couldn't report. Why? There's no food, no shelters. That's it. And of course, the excuse that always we don't have money for that. But we may have money for events like the visit of the Pope. That's what I'm like to say. To say that the political maturity and the political will of our leaders, they need to demonstrate. Immediately, they need to roll out the phase 2 to go for the training. After the training, that I say it should be before the end of March. At least we have faced phase 2, we have graduated them. Number 2, we are saying, one of the things is disturbing me. We graduate our soldiers with the sticks. But in Kajukeji, we are killing ourselves with the guns. Where does those guns come from that we are unable to collect them and graduate the unified forces? Where are the youth? Where is the store of the youth that they are getting guns? If we're not abusing the guns of the state. So for me, it's really contradictory.
Let me just remind you with one thing. Last time, our ambassador to Ethiopia and African Union, he had a call to the continental body to help South Sudan in collecting these guns from the hands of the civilian in the country. He said there is a project there in African Union.
Of course, the disarmament.
Disarmament. They've been doing it in West Africa. Why not South Sudan? I remember James Morgan, you talk about that.
Yes, of course, Ambassador James Morgan have made that call. That call works when the system in country is broad disarmament. That's how it works. Okay, in the project of West Africa, is that you come to realize that in West Africa, it works better because the government in West Africa or the parties in West Africa that form the government are pro-disarmament. We cannot disarm our civilians if our political elites are not using the flow of arms in the hand of civilians as a political tool. Because sometimes, this incident happening. Some of these incidents are politically motivated to undermine the leadership of the day and to weaken the leadership of the day and to darken the image of the leadership of the day. That's how political is motivated. But sometimes when you say so, some people in the leaders will say, no, it's not politically motivated. But what exactly? What are we trying to do? So disarmament works where the government take the lead, and that's why you subject citizens not take the law into their hands. But when political elites start facilitating citizens to take the law into their hand under the cover of the authority, you cannot disarm people. You cannot disarm people.
Oh, I think we are still talking about the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement. The roadmap, according to the parties to the agreement, will start on date 22nd of this month. Do you think the parties will demonstrate their commitment to implement the remaining task?
The roadmap indicators of success are 3. And these 3 should be demonstrated from 22nd onwards. 1, allocation of resources, putting a financial package for the peace on the table. And in the budget, what do you call the peace fund? Until we see the peace fund is being put in the central bank, that this is a peace fund. So, because even let me tell you, since 2018 or 2019, since the agreement was signed, government have not disseminated agreement. Until today, if you go to the government office and talk about the agreement, they will tell you we need to disseminate. Are you disseminating in the roadmap that they are coming to a finishing point? Actually, the roadmap is a penalty.
They're supposed to tour all the states.
Exactly. How do you want to disseminate a peace agreement during a penalty kicks? So roadmap is a penalty kicks. There's nothing else. Because the actual time for the game of the revitalized agreement is ending on 22nd February. So what starts from 22nd February until 2025, what do you call the 24 months? This 24 months is a season of penalty kicks.
As a civil society activist, as a leader of civil society activists, and one of the people who participate very hard in that process, and Addis Ababa and Khartoum, did you alert them?
We keep alerting
together those of Iliolo Moro.
Exactly, we keep alerting them. We keep alerting them. The access to Galwak is a bit different. Martin, earlier I can confess in this particular platform, yes, I access Martin. We have a dialogue. We talk. We discuss priorities. I know recently we have been discussing priority about the political milestone, and he was very cooperative. But of course, access to the security advice of the president is actually wasn't access to the president.
So, Michael Moko also.
Of course, the rest can access them. The rest can access them. But when start from the security advisor and to the presidency, that access is a bit harder. I don't know why. These are national figures. I don't know why. But at least the rest we can access them. But the biggest problem, they will tell you there's no funds. But the problem, who control the funds? The funds are controlled from the leadership of the security advisor president to the presidency. But those people, you cannot access them.
No.
But those who have no access to money, you can access them. So for me, that's the first indicator. The second indicator of the roadmap, it is when our political elites were able to regain trust and confidence. They are able to reduce the deficit that we hear sometimes in their speeches. That's the second indicator. The third indicator is that if they are unable to deliver anything in the first 6 months or the 24 months, forget about the roadmap. So until the first 6 months, which it means if you count February, March, April, May, June, August. Until August, if they fail to deliver the key mile tasks of the revitalized peace agreement under the roadmap, the rest of the 18 months is rubbish. There's nothing.
So that means we're going to forget about the revitalized peace agreement itself.
But how will they exit power?
اوكي لكل مستمع في كل مكان. ده إدمون ياكاني ضيف بتاعي داخل الاستديو، هو المدير التنفيذي لمنظمة تمكين المجتمع من أجل التقدم سيبو. نعم، خلينا نشيل تليفونك. أنا متأكد في ناس كتير عنده أسئلة كتير داري يسأل فيه. يتصل في تليفون 0911-986-986 أو 0922-986-986 or do text us on 0913-986-986. هلو يا ريدي.
هلو الهادي.
أيوة.
صباح كيف؟
صباح النور.
معك سلطان جوزيف سوكيتا.
سلطان جوزيف فضل.
أنا بعيد من نهاية السيد إدمون ياكاني.
فضل سلطان جوزيف.
طبعا هو زول قوي، يعني زي فاحش، زول بفعل المرض. يعني هسه هو قاعد يفعل المرض وبكتب دعوة ولا ما بلقى دعوة عشان يعالج المرض ده.
نعم.
أنا قلت كلام اللي أنا هو قبل كده هو كلام كثير في مشاكل بتاعنا ده.
نعم.
مسألة متابعة مدني فعلا قوي. قبل كده هو قال المشكلة كان أصل في بيبور. قال السياسيين البلق بدأ الناس ومن في نزاع أصحاب الرئيس. قالوا قبلوا الناس ديل ما جابوا دواعي. أسد الناس زيارة البوب يومتها. اللي كان أسلت. نفس كلام الأسل في بور أسل في كجي. ونازل مش فيني برضو لا كده لك واي زول البقود الكواليس الشعب يموت ساكت خليه يحسبوه زي ما انت قلت هم القلبك.
نعم.
شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا جزيلا لك سلطان جوزيف هناك من سوكسيتا في جوبا. هلو يا راديو، خلينا نسمع منك نشيل أسئلة وبعدين نسمع من الضيف بتاعي في الاستديو إدمون ياكاني. هلو يا راديو.
Morning, hi, Radio.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, this is Joseph Akolmanyanga. I'm calling from Gudele here.
Joseph Akolmanyanga, welcome.
Thank you so much. I think I have to appreciate all the work released by Edmond Yakani, and I also appreciate iRadio work during the Pope visit.
Yes.
You know, if we cannot actually be very calm about the Pope's visit, I think it will be very difficult for us actually to find peace. And this is where South Sudan needs to be embracing themselves and focus on implementation of the current peace. I think my question actually should go back to Edmond Yakani, because most of the time, of course, there are many other civil society organizations in the country, but they allow him to at least now be the one spearheading all these discussions. We are not hearing anything from the grassroots civil society organizations, but only here at the national level. If you could see all the incidences are happening, they are happening at the state, sometimes at county and Payam. And we are not seeing any statement that can at least encourage or declare such incidences like what happened now in Kajasaji and some other incidents in South Sudan.
Yes.
What are these people doing? What are they doing? That's the first question. Second question, you know, okay, let's forget that Pope will be keeping on focusing on South Sudan's issues. He has kissed the leader's feet. He has visited South Sudan. Now the work is at our door. So what is civil society organization doing here? And at least to help our leaders to find a good way that South Sudan can find the lasting peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph Akolmanyanga there from Gudele. Hello, Radio. Hello. نعم إدمون أنت عندك 2 سؤال أو 3 سؤال من سلطان جوزيف ومن جوزيف أكولمانيانغ. Yes, you can answer them.
Yeah,
سلطان جوزيف أنت ادي سؤال بتاعه بالعربي.
اي نعم شكرا جزيلا. انه بركه صباح بدر ناس جوزيف.
نعم.
ان شاء الله جاي رقم 3 بركه جوزيف. اول حاجه جوزيف اندر يقول انه ناس قاعد تعسر في النصر او في تعزيز تعنف بين المجتمعات ده. زمان قلت المره اللي فاتت وانا لسه بعيد انه هم اكثر حاجه اصدقاء للرئيس. ده حاجه واحد. اصلا نقبضوا ما من السهوله. ليه ما من السهوله؟ لان في جزء منه بيستخدم العنف في المجتمعات ده كوسيله للاتنشن الرئيس او كوسيله للحوار مع الرئيس عشان يلقى السلطه. فدل ما بنقدر نحسبهم لانه جزء منهم سياسيين وجزء منهم قاده عسكريين. يقدروا يخشوا لهم عندهم مجموعات اوصالهم كاسون ما بقدر يقبضهم. حاجه الوحيد انه رئيس من المفترض يعاقبهم. رئيس يعاقبهم كيف؟ انه رئيس اسماء معروف يا اخي. اسماء معروف. مثلا لاحظ الاحداث اللي حصل بين تويت ونوك ده اسماء ناس ذكروها. نائب الرئيس عبد الباقي ذكر في التقرير حقه وده يقول اقرب زي ما قلت اقرب من اقربين الرئيس في ناحيه الصداقه. لاحظ في الاحداث اللي حصل في جمرك ده في ناس معروفين انه والد جونغولي ديناي جو قال لي انه هو هيطلع اسمائهم في مساحه شعبي. يعني يبقى انه والي عنده معلومه. والي كمان قال وادي انه هو قدم كشف للرئيس الاسماء ناس اللي جاب المازق اللي حصل في بيبور ويا في جمرك ده. ونمر احداث كجي ده حصل لو كون اللجنه يعمل بحث بنلقى انه في اسماء ناس معروفين في كلف الاحداث ده. فالناس دي معروفين. ففي ناس بيستخدم العنف في المجتمعات ده كوسيله عشان كيف انه يخلي الحكومه ده شكل يكون شكله بايظ، شكل يكون شكله ما نشيط، وشكل يكون ما شكل ديمقراطي، ويكون لهم بالنسبه لهم وسيله لحوار سياسي لتغيير السلطه. ففي ناس بيقول يا اخي والله في ناس بيعمل نداء للريجيم تشينج. Actually this communal violence is a call for regime change by the way. And I don't know why president is giving these people to abuse his leadership, because they're using this violence to undermine the president and to call for regime change. That's another way of calling regime change, is make people to clash and let people kill themselves so that the current incumbent system is called as a failed system and kick them out. So I don't know why is the leadership allowing that. All our intelligence institutions are having facts. Why do they allow that? So بالنسبة لي دي رسالة. فده بيحتاج إنه لموقف فردي ترئيس الجمهورية يعاقب السياسيين ديل. برغم إنه هو قال لو لاحظت رئيس قال وكده ماشي فتح شارع بور، قال انه في ناس عنده مصالح حقهم الفرديه بفرض العنف في المجتمعات لانهم دارين يشربوه، فيبقى انه عنده معلومه مفترض يعاقب الناس تاني زي ما عملوا اي بعد من القيادين في الدول. اقرب دوله هي يوغندا المسيفني نفس الحاجه. Coming to my brother, the second question, Joseph, brother, the big issue is the civic space. We have so many activists out there who will speak, and activists not only organizations, even individual religious leaders, traders, everybody can speak out. Like the regular calls of either iRadio or Mirai or other station. These are all activists. They are sharing information on what's happening. But the problem when they speak out, the civic space is not there for them. So the big issue that people are silent because they are under pressure. If you speak, you will be picked up and you will be mistreated. That's one thing I'd like to say. In terms of civil society, بعد زيارة البوب نعمل شنو؟ بالنسبة لنا كمنظمة CEPO, for us as a CEPO, our intention, we have already started reaching out to religious leaders. قلنا لقادة الدينين، قلنا يا ما واحد من العيوب اللي إنتوا نفستوا كقادة الدينين بعد الكيستا بوب في الأرجل حقنا حقنا كان ما عندكم كنت عمل لمتابعة دور الكيستا بوب في أرجل تكاد حقنا. What we try to do is that we have spoken to so many religious leaders that one of the weakness of religious leaders, after Pope kissed the feet of our leaders, they don't have action plan to follow the impact of the case. So this time Pope have visited Juba as a civil society. We have been calling for the churches that let us go to Crown Peace Village in Eastern Equatoria. All the religious leaders, both Christians and Muslims, we take them to Quran. Our intention is to have 11. Sit in Quran, design an action plan. How can the religious leaders follow our political leaders from now until the end of 24 months? Because they need to have a meeting with Salva, they need to have a meeting with the RIAC, they need to issue a statement. And because all this time, the 36 months, the churches were quiet, the religious leaders were quiet, whether been Christian or Muslims. There's no joint Muslims and Christian religious leaders who came, look here, spiritually we're tasked to see peace and stability. We are issuing a statement because we are disappointed. Why should we wait until Pope have to come, Archbishop of Canterbury have to come, and then moderator have to come and start listening statement religious saying we are disappointed? It's only Santo in Juba who said, but sometimes people say Santo is political. No, he's telling the truth. People say Santo is political. He's only one speaking. But the rest are enjoying the call and the Bible and the preaching in the name of the Father and Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Azar Bazden fi jame mafzol biulia sida reis ya reis fi mushkila hina. So for me, as civil society, we're going to follow it up, and this must happen before the closure of the transitional period by 22nd February. Our aim is that we need to go to Grand Peace Village. As we roll out 22nd February 2023, we need to see religious leaders every month or every 2 months issuing a statement and meeting the leaders. Let the leaders close their door, so that the international community and the world will know that our leaders have closed their door to religious leaders, not to advise them how to make peace and stability come. Because it's a spiritual responsibility. وده في القرآن في آية بيقول إنه كلمناكم صعوبا أنسا وذكرا لكي يسنوا تتعارفوا ليس لكي تتقتلوا. It's the same thing. Love your enemies, love yourself.
Yes.
So
yes,
what are they doing with our imams in the james here and the bishops here? What are they driving around if they don't advise leaders?
Their roles, yes.
Exactly.
نعم، لكل مستمع في كل مكان. زمان حقنا ساعة 47 دقيقة داخل استديوهات آرد. نمشي لفاصل قصير ونرجع بكم مرة ثانية للضيف حقنا في الاستديو إدمون ياكاني. كونوا معنا.
يا حبيبي يا مسمار قلبي تلقى قروز ده؟
أي يا حياتي أنا لقى قروش ده، لكن ما تجي مفضل 20,000 تميليات.
حياتي قلبتي ما تكفو أنا بالرسول لتا تاني أسد في حساب تاكيتا مومو.
Semengo, resite sirin teletin, marata ki de gonus gomunu ke tirzede.
Logoro moy, de ma resite de gurus asili. MTN mulena accent haja fi belede, jibu lena momo de rasul gurus de ming marabi shilu, ming obitala wo biya haja uder fi ayi zaman fi ayi waqt momo de accent haja logoro moy. Momo de MTN mobile money albi side wana hafiz gurus tenna u rasul gurus tenna fi ayi zaman le ayi zola lindo account MTN mobile money. Ashante bifata hisab ma momo MTN mobile money lazim kelta dusu nejma 200 silim wita bilgo ke tirmin malumat albi side ta kefita bifata hisab ta. Good morning, it's iRadio.
Yes, good morning once again لكل مستمع في كل مكان. زي ما قلنا لكم جبال ضيف تايل في الاستديو هو إدمون يكاني المدير التنفيذي لمنظمة تمكين المجتمع من أجل التقدم. في زور راسل رسالة هنا إدمون بيقول Hi, I am Mani. Does the law allow others to have guns and kill others by law? If not, then why are they not charged for illegal guns possession? نعم انت بيجي جواب السؤال ده لكن خلينا برضو نرفع بعض المكالمات من المستمعين. علوم بدوق تليفون من جبال. هلو اي راديو. Yes, good morning. هلو اي راديو. صباح النور.
ودينك الكريم يا
اسمك كريم منو؟
معك شيخ عبد الله من كوروليوم.
شيخ عبد الله من كوروليوم، تفضل.
يا انا كلامي بقول كده يا اخي هنا بدل نادي نص معروفين وغير نخرب البلد، اخر نفقد البلد ونفقد الشعب ولا اخر نفقد الناس الفالسين دي ومر الحرب دي.
نعم.
ده سؤالي بمشي كده ده علاقه لهذه ده الله انا اسمه
إدمون يكاني.
إدمون يكاني.
شكرا جزيلا لك شيخ عبد الله. شكرا لك كثير شيخ عبد الله. سؤال واضح وبرضه في رساله هناك من واني انت بتجاوبون.
بالنسبه لواني رساله حق لواني كالاتي انه ما في قانون بيسمح لاي مواطن يملك سلاح عشان يقتل الاخرين مثلا سواء كان حدث ولا. the biggest problem واني او عايزول عنده سؤال سجل حق واني ده ليه حدث عنده guns right now. في شيئين مهم يا الهادي ده انا اوضح انه الجانز في يد الحدث and the access to bullets that they're using for killing. Where does this come from? What's the interest? The rightful owners تحدث the rightful owners كتولزا أصحاب الأبقار ده هم الناس ماشيين الأبقار ديل. أصحاب الأبقار ده قادة سياسيين قادة عسكريين في البلد ده هم عندهم إمكانيات بيستخدم سلطة الدولة يملكوا الحدث بأسلحة وبذكيرة سنضرب. I did a thorough studies. The rightful owners of these kettles are not these people who are going. These people are dying behind the kettles are innocent. The rightful owners are leaders in this country, whether politically or in the military. They're the one flowing it.
Yes.
Because, look, if you can fight like the one of Gumruk, you can fight for 5 hours non-stop. You're shooting bullets. It end up in the share captain win. Reinforcement. Where do you get it from? If you are not really having the rightful owners of people who are powerful. So the rightful owners of the kettles are powerful, but we undercover it by saying the herders are not respecting the herders. Like now, Emmanuel Adil is in Kajukeji. He may talk to the herders, but the herders may receive instruction here. We liberated this country. Our blood will pour there. No way. The Jaimin our enforcement march. So for me, this is the biggest dilemma. And this is where the responsibility of the National Security and the National Defense Committee is very important under the leadership of His Excellency President and First Vice President. Why are they not making decisions to make sure that nobody get a gun in his hand or carry a gun? Look at here. Look at now what's happening at the border with Kenya. Proposals are fighting on behalf of the country. That is where SSPDF is needed. But now communities are clashing at the border. Kenya is saying we're sending reinforcement there, and I don't know what the SSPDF sending reinforcement. But at least I've seen our Minister of Foreign Affairs interacting with the ambassador of Kenya here to de-escalate the violence there. But communities are taking guns. Now they start asking, where does this community get these guns at that border? But people have to fight because their lives at risk.
Yes.
So we are trying to minimize that, and this comes from this point, Al-Hadi, before we go to Abdallah. As the state fail to protect civilians, civilians will take the law into their hand. As civilians take the law into their hand, in terms of community defense force, when we start building the culture of community defense force, I will tell you, these barracks of the government, that built from that, Bokun, a store of community defense system that have access to the barracks. While these guns will migrate to all communities. So those whom we call them as a farmers, who you call them peaceful, give them 3 to 4 years. They will be armed also. Will become another Somalia where Edmond go to his community with his command system. I move, you touch me, my people there will react with their guns in their hands. But is that the South Sudan we want? That's not what we want, completely. So the question comes into the leadership of the National Security Defense Committee, National Defense Committee. What are they doing if they see? Actually, let me tell you the lives we have lost. Mid-December last year until now in our statistics, we are already hitting to 15,000 lives of people. Just in this short period, within 3 months.
Because of the issue of the herders.
Look at the classes of Twitch. Look at the classes of Gumruk. Look at the reaction after the incident of Gumruk in Duk, in Nyandit, in Nirol. Look at those reactions after the Gumruk incident. We have lost lives there. Nobody talk about it. Look, yesterday, 3 incidents happened. We lost life of people around between Warab and Unity State.
Yes.
Look at those incidents. Look
Yes.
at Kajukeji. So why are we not having political leadership in this country? We don't have security and intelligence in this country. We have it. Why? They are undermined by their fellow friends who sit with them in decision-making table.
Yes. You can answer. Ita mungkin bijabo Sheikh Abdallah min Khorwilem.
والله إلى شيخ عبد الله أهم حاجة إنه القادة حقنا دي المفترض يسمع لرجال الدين. أنا لو در نرجع عبد الله بالناحية وهي إنه رجال الدين دي بدي رسالة، لكن العكس إنه تماما القادة السياسيين قفل أبواب لرجال الدين سواء كان مسيحيين ولا مسلمين، وبرغم إنه كل يوم أحد بيمشي في الكنيسة يا كل يوم الجمعة بيمشي في الجوامع. ما عبد الباقي أي قاعد في رئاسة كمسلم كل يوم الجمعة هو في جامع، ومن خلاله حاولوا في تقريبا زي 5 نفر مسيحيين كل يوم كل هم في قاده الرئاسه اللي قاعدين يتكلموا في شنو؟ مسلم في جوا هناك، عبد الباقي في موجود هناك، باقي ده كله مسيحيين، بيبقى القران بجاي والانجيل بجاي، قاعدين يعملوا بو شنو؟ في سلطه حولهم ده. فيبقى انه في غياب تاع انتباه للرسائل الدينيه سواء كان من القران الكريم ولا من الانجيل، يبقى انه عايزين بقاده ما عندهم انتباه لشنو؟ للحمايه تاع حياه الشعب كاولويه.
Yes. Hello radio. Hello. Yes, I have a follow-up question here. Earlier, you said President Salva Kiir has declared the year of 2023 as the year of peace, reconciliation, and forgiveness. Now, for this to happen, what do you think is the appropriate way to achieve this, given the issues of cattle keepers versus farmers? There is also child abduction and cattle raiding in some parts of the country. Yes.
One, for us to realize the year 2023 declared by His Excellency President as a year of forgiveness, reconciliation, and development, because there's an element of development there. One, that particular declaration of the President need to be taken up by the executive, develop a strategy. There must be a strategy for that call. That is a national call, that's a call of the President. And that's why as civil society, I've recently been communicating to the Minister and Office of the President that we need to organize a roundtable to translate this call into a strategy, into an action plan. That's one thing to do. So we need to have an action plan, translate the call made by the President into those 3 elements. That's number 1. The second thing, so that this thing works, President need to sanction control of civic and political space. We cannot forgive, we cannot reconcile, we cannot achieve development if we don't dialogue. So it means President need to issue an order like the one of national dialogue that let people talk as a sign of forgiveness and reconciliation. That's the second thing to happen. The third thing is that as President have pardoned, you know, he pardoned some people, like that 36 people in the death row.
Yes.
And he pardoned 35 who are financially punished. But still we have people who are under detention. I'm aware there are officials in the Central Bank of South Sudan, 3 of them. They are under detention. The families are shouting to have access to their husbands. I'm using this platform. I'm alerting the President that these 3 South Sudanese in the Central Bank who are detained because of manipulation of money in the Central Bank should be free or they should face court. And there are still people under some detention centers. They should be free so that we can move. Because we cannot forgive ourselves if you don't show me a getcha. That's one thing. The third thing is that we need to see President and his counterparts in the presidency, and specifically between President and First Vice President, they should go for public rally. They should move across the country as public rally. That I'm here moving with the First Vice President to tell you we have reconciled, we have forgiven each other. Because we only hear that either in a church or in a public event. We have not seen practically out in Juba that they are moving together and they hold hands together and they tell the nation, yes, we have disagreed, but time has come. South Sudan stability is above everything. That is required.
This is what's supposed to happen according to the revitalized peace agreement.
Exactly. Remember Western Equatoria. Several times we're hearing messages that His Excellency President and First Vice President are going to make a visit to Western Equatoria. We are very happy with that message, but nothing. We've never seen. Why is it being sabotaged?
Let us speak some 1 and 2 calls. How do I radio? Hello. Yes, hello, good morning. The other question here is talking about Yakani elections according to the roadmap will be held next year. Do you think South Sudan is ready for election? Is the environment conducive?
Obviously, we don't have any end of the game.
2 weeks ago, we can see the message, the letter from the Minister of Cabinet Affairs.
We have no end game. As I said, the game, if I to use the language of sports, the game timeline of 90 minutes or 36 months. Gone. The end of the game, we have to go for penalty kicks. 24 months, that's a time given for penalty kicks. In any game, after penalties, you have no way. You either collapse or you exit or you hand over power to somebody. So how do we go with that? There's no any option after 24 months that we're going to do. The only way is elections. Now, what type of elections? Yes, we may not meet the indicators of what we call electoral calendar for credible, fair, and peaceful elections. But we can meet the indicators of electoral calendar of what we call reasonable elections as a political instrument for peaceful and honorable transfer of power from one group to another. So if the government put money, election is nothing. Election is putting money for marathon running towards December 2024. We can succeed that. And UN have already indicated. The cabinet ministers have written a letter. UN have said they're ready to offer technical advice, and UN can deploy technical advice for that. And in the agreement, the government have the responsibility to ask UN, AU, IGA to support the electoral process because it's there and they're ready. And EU ambassador in Juba have made it very clear that EU is ready to support the election. So it means EU in Brussels have seen the election as the best options. And we have had some message from the diplomatic community. But elections need certain political commitments. If those political commitments are put on the table, we can meet election in 6 months period. But the question is that for you to put those indicators on the table, you need a political will, political maturity, political commitment, and you don't want what you call ethnic politics. This thing of that when your tribe fail, you fail. Even if you're a majority tribe, you allow Senate to decide.
Yes, hello, Radio.
Hello, how are you?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
James Duer, I'm okay. You have less than 40 seconds to give your question or comment. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I would just like to give comment on what he just said lastly, that he gave recommendation of another dialogue to be initiated for forgiveness to happen. We have national dialogue being conducted by them, and none of them being implemented. How should you recommend again the dialogue that will be initiated and they usually fail to implement? And the question is, you have been giving your opinion all over these issues that are happening here and there, and none of them being addressed. But you always used to say that these people, they are implementing what you are saying. And we are not seeing the fruit of what you are saying being implemented. Are you really, these people will work for peace? The same Pope is the one kissing their feet, and they fail to implement none of what Pope told them during the kissing of their feet. So do you think these leaders are for people? Even you are almost to join them now. Thank you.
Yeah, I respect him. You know, that's a clear indicator.
The last point.
That you're almost joining them.
Yeah, this one is circulating outside.
Yeah, exactly. This is a clear indicator of political frustration.
Please, you have less than 30 seconds to answer James Duer. Yes.
Yeah, my answer to James Duer, the last comment is that's a clear indicator of political frustrations of no any options. The only option is go on blaming anybody.
Yes.
That's what I tell you, James Duer. That's political frustration. But James Duer, President suspend Rome peace process in the closure of his year of speech. We told him that is wrong. President lifted it. That's an impact. Because we put pressure on President that you cannot welcome Pope and you slap him by suspending Rome peace process. President listened. He lifted the sanction, the suspension of the Rome peace process. Now, I'm not calling for dialogue. I'm saying President have called for year 2023 to be year for forgiveness, reconciliation, development. We cannot reconcile. I didn't call for another national dialogue. I say let President allow people to speak freely. So, like when Dot was challenging, are they for people? Dot, you need to have a space that when you say, Your Excellency President and the rest, you're not for people, you cannot be arrested, you cannot be taken somewhere, you cannot be detained. And then somebody say, okay, we want to show you why for people.
Yes. On Sunday, after the departure of Pope Francis, President Kiir called on the IDPs to come out and start rebuilding their lives. What is your comment on that statement?
The IDPs will come out when we have the conducive environment that they feel their safety and their security is not under threat. And as this communal violence still continuing, and as the economical pressure still continuing, as the ethnic politics of shifting of power still continuing, I don't think the IDPs will have a trust that if we go out there, our life is under safety.
President Kiir also told the Central Equatorial State government to allocate plots for IDPs in Juba. Do you agree?
Let me tell you, access to plot is a legal right of anybody, but you must follow the procedures. It shouldn't be politically motivated. And that's why even I'm somebody who will not support an idea of you settle people on ethnic line. These things of Hila Denka, Jebel Denka, Hila Zande, in order, it encourages massacres. People want plots, you apply in a regular best way that you can access the plot. But if you want to settle people on ethnic line, I don't think that's the best way. They have the right to have access to plots, like even me, I have right to access plot in every part of the country. But I must follow the procedures on how to access the plot. That's my opinion.
Yes, your last message?
My last message is that let the visit of the Pope offer us an opportunity of reconciling when we agree to speak to each other without any form of restriction, when we are open, when we are not selective. South Sudan that we want, we can achieve. And the national anthem words that let God bless South Sudan, oh God, we shall get the benefit of them if we can really talk to each other. And my final is that let's stop hate speech and hostile propaganda that is making us lose our citizenship and our social fabric. Thank you very much.
شكرا كثير لك إدمون ياكاني المدير التنفيذي للمنظمة بتاع تمكين المجتمع من أجل التقدم أو معروف اختصارا بسيبو. إلى هنا نقابلكم بكرة في يوم جديد. أنا كنت معكم الهادي هواري. لكل الناس اللي اتصلوا أنا بقول شكرا لكم، والناس اللي اتصلوا ما استقبلنا تليفوناتهم أنا بقول حد لك، ولهين بكرة نسمع منكم.